Yeah, so it's funny. There's a lot of squat every day programs out there,
Right.
and I just cannot wrap my head around what is so different about the deadlift from the squat that you can squat every single day, but if you deadlift more than once a week, everything's gonna fall apart.
It's gonna crush
Um,
you.
yeah, so it's all about variations and all about changing how you're deadlifting. There's so many ways to deadlift. Most people think of a deadlift, they think conventional sumo. Boom, that's it.
Maybe
Done.
sumo.
Yeah, maybe sumo. You're like, oh, that's not even a real fucking deadlift.
Right.
So you've got these two main variations, but I always laugh because, those of you who know Adam T. Glass know that he's one of the top grip athletes in the world. Incredibly strong hands. He's the guy who really got me into grip training. And I always used to just kind of joke with him. He'd be like, "Oh, you're going to do some grip today?" And I'm like, "No, dude, I'm lifting real weights. I'm deadlifting." And he would say, "Well, I'm deadlifting too." Because if you're picking something up off the ground, you're deadlifting.
Right. Anytime you
Right?
pick something up.
Yeah. So really there's almost an infinite number of ways that you can be deadlifting on any given day. You can be doing pulls from any different height off the floor, and that makes a huge difference. You can do rack pulls at 100 pounds more than your best ever one rep max deadlift, and you can come back tomorrow and do them again because they're just not that taxing.
Right.
Um,
They're
so,
fun.
yeah, they're fun. You can pull asymmetrically. You can pull on one side. You can pull behind the back. You can pull at different ranges of motion. You can pull with different implements. As soon as you start pulling on like an axle or something like that, you're going to be pulling half the weight that you normally can hold on to. So overall, it's not that taxing, but you're getting deadlift repetitions in. So you're grooving that pattern, and you're building more muscle around that pattern because it's going to be slightly different. Anytime you change the joint angle, everything changes about it. So, I mean, there's an almost infinite number of ways that you can come up with a deadlift. So, yeah, you can deadlift literally every single day. The way that I wrote the Off the Floor program, I released this book out in September before I got married, which was insane. But the way I wrote that program is deadlifting 3 days a week. But one of them is the day that most people would think of as like your deadlift day. Like that's when you, if it tests well, go really heavy and do your sort of primary variations. But then the second day you'll do like a grip deadlift, so it's going to be significantly lighter. You probably do more reps. And then the third day you're doing basically like speed and volume. So kind of like a dynamic effort day.
Right.
So there's 3 days a week and a different way to mix that up. Lately, what I've been doing is I've just gone back to deadlifting every single time I train.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's been really fun because it's just like, what can I do today? I don't know. Let's see. And sometimes it'll be conventional deadlifts with the barbell, as much as I can. And then other days it'll be 110-pound deadlifts with the Bosco bell, 2.5-inch bell. So.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, I don't understand the fascination with deadlifting infrequently and squatting every day. It makes no sense to me.
So do you find that this is the best way for someone who really wants to improve like a pattern? Maybe not necessarily a very super specific goal, but like somebody wants to just, hey, my press is weak or my row is weak or my pull-up is weak. You think that the best way to do that is just find a handful of variations, go in there, test them, test whether you should be doing kind of more strength format or a more volume format, and then
Yep,
just do them every single day?
absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, and listen, this is not. I didn't invent this.
Right.
The essence of the West Side program is to do lots of variations
Right.
of the main lifts. It's this is not this is basic adaptation. Like do it in as many ways as you can around that. You're going to get better at it, and we find that the testing leads you to get better faster. So, for example, if you're trying to improve your powerlifting deadlift, conventional or sumo, but Jefferson consistently tests the best for you, if you do the Jefferson, your sumo and conventional will get better faster than if you try to force the round peg into the square hole by doing the conventional and sumo. I just actually wrote out for your readers a great case study on one of my guys that had some scoliosis in his back. It's actually a preview of the case study. I'm still waiting on x-rays and stuff. But basically, he followed his testing and his intuition instead of forcing it, and he was able to get out of pain and go back to the conventional lifts. So it's pretty cool.
It's pretty powerful. It's like tapping into that deep intuition that we should have, but we don't because we have so much information coming in from outside sources, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love the way you guys simplify things, and you don't tell people like, hey, you got to follow this program and you got to do this and that. You just say, hey, here's some motor patterns. Here's some options for each motor pattern. These are the human movements that we should all be doing. Figure out which one is working best for you today, and then do it.
Yeah.
It's just
Exactly.
it sounds so easy, and it is so easy. It's very cool. So I have one more quick question for you about fitness, and then we'll kind of wrap things up here. You guys seem to do a lot of your work predicated around strengthening motor patterns, right?
Yeah.
But I don't hear you guys doing a lot of higher intensity metabolic conditioning type stuff. What's your take on that? What's your mindset around those two things?
So we definitely have a strength bent. We definitely do. And there's a few reasons for that. I think that one of the core reasons ultimately is that the type of metabolic, really high intensity stuff is very stressful.
Sure.
Okay. Like training is a stress, right? Even lifting heavy, of course, that's a stress too. But the metabolic type stuff, circuit, high intensity circuits, like basically CrossFit WODs, are very, very stressful. And the population, again, this comes back to populations like we talked at the beginning of the call, coming full circle here.
Right.
The population I deal with is very stressed in general. These are people who live stressful lives.
Who live in America.
Yeah, exactly. People who live in America. They're fucking stressed out of their minds. Exactly.
People who live on the planet Earth these days.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not even talking like Wall Street execs. I'm talking regular people live very, very stressful lives. So I find that if I give them a lot of that kind of stuff, it crushes them. It actually makes them worse because they just don't need that level of stress in their life. So we lean more towards the strength stuff. I just think that the benefit ratio is a little bit higher there. And the reality is that for most people, nothing in their life dictates that they need to be able to do, this enormous amount of work in under 3.5 minutes. Like they just don't need to. Like, they don't need that kind of work capacity. So what good does it do them? Like everything we build in the gym has a cost. And I don't generally see the cost being worth it. The other thing is I'm really big, obviously, on testing and avoiding excessive effort. And that whole metabolic training sort of mentality, it seems to me that it often goes hand in hand with not listening to your body and just, pushing through it. Yeah, and there are ways to do conditioning in a smarter way than that by, still paying attention to what your body's saying, but it's a tough mentality to break, and it just seems like it always leads to the like push harder, keep going, even though everything in your body is screaming to stop. So I really, really hate it when people get hurt. I knock on wood that I just have an extremely low rate of hurting people in my gym, and that should be true for everyone, but it's not. I know CrossFits that are pumping out injuries. Like this guy the other day, it was a manager of one. He told me, he's like, yeah, we actually only have like a 1 in 5 rate of people sticking around. And I was like, yeah. I was like, are you serious, dude? That's not a good thing to like. You shouldn't tell anyone that. Yeah. Like 1 in 5 people that show up at your door stick around for a little while and then disappear. Yeah. Holy shit.
That's terrible, man. Yeah, I think the CrossFit thing is so interesting because there's a few gyms out there that are just doing a really great job with really smart coaches, and they're teaching great stuff. And there's a few leaders within that area that are doing fantastic things. And then there's just a pile of people who are just coaching stuff that is way beyond their current level of coaching. And I know that because I went through a level 1 cert after doing like some work with Jim Schmitz and Olympic lifting and working with Pavel and Gray Cook and all these people. Yep. And it was just a joke. I even asked him at one point, I said, they were showing somebody how to squat. And I said, well, what if somebody can't go to parallel or below? What do you do then? So I'll just keep working on it. And I was like, oh God, this is the level that we're talking about here. So there was no concept of progressive movement or proper motor patterns or anything. It was pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, and it's that same mentality I talked about at the beginning too, the Dave Tate kind of, you're a pussy. Like, we'll just keep working on it.
You can't squat low, you're a pussy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just not that helpful.
Right on, man. Well, let's wrap this call up here.
Yeah.
You mentioned a book. I'll post a link below the show notes. What's that book all about, Dave?
So off the floor is basically everything I've talked about today. It goes through the biofeedback and how to test and how to use that to run your programming. And then it's like the ultimate. I basically tried to write the ultimate deadlift book. You know, this isn't the book that Andy Bolton wrote. That's like how to deadlift 1,000. This is like how to be truly all around strong. I went to a strongman contest last year and like jaws dropped when I went through the deadlift medley because I went through it so fucking fast. Like I was half the time of anyone else because I'm just really good at picking stuff off the floor. And so that's what off the floor is about. It's like tons of variations, and I go through everything I've learned about each one of those variations in the exercise library. So it's not just like, here's the Jefferson and how to do it. It's like, here's the Jefferson. This is why I use it. This is what I've learned about it, what I think, makes it useful to you, all that stuff. So it's really cool. I've gotten tons of great feedback on it. I had a guy email me just the other day that he pulled 500 pounds for the first time since a major back injury, who knows when, and he never thought he'd pull again, and now he's pulling 500. So it's cool. Yeah, it's deadliftofthefloor.com. Definitely check it out if you're interested in getting stronger.
Absolutely, man. If anybody needs to add the deadlift in their program, get some serious strength, then that sounds like a good resource for them. So check that out, you guys. One more quick question for you, David. I always ask people this question. So you're a world-class deadlifter. You have a highly successful gym. You've logged 15,000 training sessions. You're at the cutting edge of this intuitive training. You're obviously a successful guy. What's your secret to success, my man?
Ouch. I guess just keep failing. Just keep failing until you figure out.
That's what I'm talking about. Fail forward.
Yep, exactly.
That's great, man. That's such a great tip, brother. Well, you know what? You guys take that tip and run with it, because I promise you, if you never fail, you're never going to get anywhere in your life. Embrace it, right?
Yep.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time today, David. I really appreciate you coming on the Garage Warrior podcast and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thanks for having me, Tyler. I really appreciate it. It was fun.